Two coffins unearthed by the element's action at the old cemetery. In their effort to oppose the wrath that seizes them as they came tearing and plunging through the rugged paths along and down the mountainside, the waters do not even spare the peaceful precincts of the graveyard, but in their rage beat furiously at every object, making devastation of everything within their grasp. For several days and even weeks past, this element has visited the city, and streams have been swollen to such an extent as to invoke the curse of residents along their muddy banks, and they in turn have sought to censure the sapience of the city council for negligence. All efforts to check the water in its maddened career have proved unavailable, and they have gone on their way unimpeded. On Wednesday last, during the thaw in the snow that is heaped upon the declivity of the hills along Strayhorse Gulch, the stream started out with renewed fury, and when the banks of Stephen and Leiter's ditch yielded on 7th Street, this indeed swelled the stream. It coursed its way uninterrupted, and no one could conceive of the frightful errand that it was upon as it went roaringly through, in perfect torrents, its yellow seething waters, looking for new fields to conquer at each foot. Its territories were at last spread around the old graveyard, which was upon the verge of the stream, which was now about 2.5 feet deep. It came tearing down with such tremendous force and beat against its banks that it soon wore them away, and rock and gravel went tumbling and rolling into its bed. It had passed all day long, and when night came with its chill, the waters were temporarily pacified and were hushed into a slow, gurgling mood. On Thursday last, Mr. George Pelter, the sexton, noticed that the waters were eating their way into the cemetery, and that it was not improbable that they had unearthed the remains of some of the silent occupants. He was examining the stream and trying to settle upon some plan whereby the course of the waters could be turned, when suddenly his attention was attracted by the bones of decayed humanity that were lying upon the side of the bank, and he stood back appalled as he realized what had occurred. The waters had been triumphant, and he could almost hear their derisive laughter as they swept by him and were gone. He went further down the stream and found a number of other bones that proved conclusively that a skeleton had been torn from its abode beneath the earth and carried away by the waters. He called a man to assist him, and collecting the remains of man, they were placed in a box and consigned to the ground. The coffin has been entirely destroyed by time and the action of water, and there was not a vestige of evidence with which to identify its occupant. It was a horrible thing, and the remains were disposed of with all dispatch. The matter of the attack of the waters had now developed into serious and alarming proportions, and something must be done to control the difficulty at once. Mr. Pelter, the sexton, again returned to the workout, and the recess or cave that had been made was very large. Overhanging were the loose boulders that projected over the eddying waters and were ready to face at any moment. Looking in, he made another discovery and was horrified at the sight of a small coffin that had been or was about to crumble from its place and fall into the water. What would he do? He dared not proceed under the rocks that looked as if they would come down with a crash with the smallest excuse, and the two men stood speechless for a time. At last it was decided that they should proceed to loosen the trembling boulders, and then they would be enabled to reach the coffin that evidently contained the remains of youth. This was but a few minutes' work, and they procured the coffin. The headboard was gone, and there was no way of determining its occupant. It was removed to another location, further upon the hill, and now lies undisturbed. An embankment has been made, and the water has been turned, no further danger being feared from them. The matter has been kept in strict secrecy until the sexton himself detailed the matter yesterday. Leadville Democrat, March 12th, 1881.